Salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a great Wednesday. In today's video, I am going to go over the top 25 options at quarterback for those of you in 2-quarterback and Superflex leagues, which everyone should be a part of by this point. What are we doing? Get on the bandwagon already. I'm also going to cover the top 15 kickers, guys that I think are going to have the most opportunity to give you points and their teams as well, but that's far less important. We have the regulars this week, but we also have some risers who have performed really well in recent weeks, and I have adjusted my rankings accordingly. Now, before we get into the stats, the information, and all the fun, please consider dropping a like on the video if you get halfway through, you find yourself enjoying the content. We are 4 subs away from reaching the goal of 500 subscribers. You can still be a part of that and help me reach it. I would greatly appreciate that as well. Now let's hop into Week 10's quarterback rankings. At the top is Josh Allen. Quick caveat here, he is being looked at for a possible UCL injury. From what we know as of the time of recording, it is not going to be that serious. He should be able to play. Honestly, I was surprised that they were even considering taking him out this week against Minnesota, because at the end of the game last week, he threw a 70-yard pass in the air to Gabe Davis. So obviously he couldn't be that hurt if he was able to make that type of a throw. Now, should he play? The Vikings defense certainly has not been a joke over the last couple of weeks, but Josh Allen's anger after losing a game to the Jets last week is going to be stronger than whatever secondary Minnesota decides to throw his way. At number 2, I have Jalen Hurts against Washington. For my money, he is the MVP frontrunner right now, without question. Over his last 4 games, Hurts has racked up 10 touchdowns, has not thrown an interception. He's finished as a QB1 in each of them and also scored 2 touchdowns in every single game. Washington is certainly solid on defense, but right now, Hurts is special. To 3, it is Patrick Mahomes against the Chargers. Now, first things first, am I bitter because the NFL gave Mahomes the win last week while simultaneously costing me the week in fantasy? Absolutely not. Maybe. Yes, but regardless, he puts up numbers and a lot of other stuff against the Jaguars. He's thrown for 869 yards in his last 2. At number 4, I have Justin Fields flying up the rankings. He gets Detroit this week. Now, if you did miss it on my hottest take video that I dropped on Tuesday, first of all, check it out. Second of all, spoiler alert. Either sell Justin Fields right now with this game on the docket. He's had an awesome streak over the last month or so, and then he gets Detroit, should be able to sell really high on him. If you're not selling him right now, enjoy the ride for this week and next, but know what is coming in the future, because after he gets Detroit and Atlanta, he faces a slaughterhouse of the Jets, Packers, Philly, and then Buffalo in that brutal 4-game stretch. We do not love that as owners, so if you can offload him before that run starts, make sure you do it. To round out my top 5, I have Tua Tagovailoa. He gets Cleveland. He has this Miami offense looking absolutely dominant. In his last 2 starts, he's racked up 684 yards, tossed 6 touchdowns as well. He's going to have to earn it every single inch against the Browns. They're allowing under 14 points a game to passers, but I believe that the offensive destruction continues, and I still have him as a top 5 play. Kyler Murray is up next. He is certainly not playing winning football himself, but he has made managers happy over the last 3 weeks. The Rams are a top 10 unit against quarterbacks thus far, but Kyler's legs are going to continue to carry him for another big week. It'll make it 3 straight finishes in the top 8. Justin Herbert is in at 7. He was down his top 2 pass catchers last week against Atlanta, and he was still able to get the job done. I don't think we can say enough about that. Owners are most likely really hoping for a big performance from him sometime soon. He's been a little bit off of his usual elite play, but Herbie is going to have to wait at least 1 more week to boom. He should still be pretty solid against this brutal 49ers defense, but we need to temper our expectations. Way up, highest he's been all season. I have Geno Smith at 8. He continues to perform. He's bounced back after a slow 3 weeks to skyrocket back into the top 5 last week for the 3rd time this year. The Bucs are allowing under 190 yards passing. That is 5th best in the league, but they do allow top 10 numbers in passing touchdowns. This is actually perfect for Geno. He has not been a yardage guy so far this season, but with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, he has been racking up the touchdowns. Dak Prescott is my next man up. He's in at 9. He should be pretty rust-free after coming off of this bye week, and he may have to go to the air a little more than Dallas would like because Zeke, at least right now, is banged up too much to go. The Packers do allow under 13 points a game to the position, so we do fear the matchup here a little bit, but it is not enough to drop Dak any more than this. After all, the Packers just lost to the Lions. To round out my top 10, it is none other than Captain Kirk Cousins against Buffalo. He just posted his 3rd top 10 finish in his last 4 tries, so there's plenty of reason for optimism. However, the last time he faced a secondary as elite as Buffalo's is, he threw 3 picks and he posted his worst finish on the year. There is certainly a wider range of outcomes than owners would like here, but I am going to keep the faith. Being a Vikings fan has absolutely nothing to do with it, I swear. Jimmy Garoppolo is in at 11. He has tossed 2 touchdowns in 4 straight games, and how couldn't you with the weapons he has? It's almost too easy for Jimmy G at this point to post top 12 finishes, but he's got a great chance to make it 4 of 5 as that QB1 against a banged up Chargers secondary. Trevor Lawrence is the last quarterback one I have in week 10. He has quietly been in this spot or better in the last 3 of 4 games, and he has a great chance to continue that hot streak against a Chiefs team that is still allowing top 7 numbers to the position, and that is after basically getting a gooser against Malik Willis last week. Tom Brady is my not-so-lucky number 13. He threw the most passes that he has all season last week, but he turned 58 attempts into just 280 yards against the Rams. It's going to take some red zone scores to turn this around, but maybe that stolen victory last week lights a fire under him, and the Bucs are able to get that spark and turn it around. As an owner, I am pretty much grasping at straws at this point, but eventually I believe this offense is going to turn, and Seattle's bottom 10 defense against passers is certainly going to help. Next up is Jared Goff against Chicago. He wasn't a void for me last week. That worked out well as he struggled mightily, but there are definitely holes to be found in the Chicago secondary that just got lit up big time by Tua. The Lions do not have the same weapons, but their offensive line is good enough to give Goff time to take advantage. As we meander on to 15, it is Jacoby Brissett in a matchup with Miami. This Dolphins defense just made Justin Fields look all world, and while I know that Jacoby Brissett is not a 1-for-1 and he does not have the same gear that Fields does, he was able to post a top 10 finish against a really tough Cincinnati defense prior to his bye. No one allows more points per game to the quarterback position than the Finns, so Brissett is a solid streaming option this week. Andy Dalton is in at 16. He gets Pittsburgh. This is a smash matchup against the Steelers. They rank 31st in passing yards and passing touchdowns allowed on the season. We've seen Dalton peak as recently as week 7 against Arizona when he was the quarterback 2 overall, so that is in his range of outcomes. I think another big performance from him in this game is not out of the question. Marcus Mariota is my 17th ranked quarterback. He gets Carolina. He has been off and then on over the last 4 weeks. He's posted finishes of quarterback 5, 19, 6, and fell all the way down to 22 last week. Now, the Panthers could not stop the run for the life of them against the Bengals, and Mariota has been great with his legs over the past month, so this adds up to a solid outing for me. Matthew Stafford remains in that mid-tier QB2 range, basically where he's been the entire season. I've tried keeping the faith with him, but he just has not been the same as he was last year when he was lighting it up. He has just 2 finishes inside this ranking all season long, and he hasn't reached 200 yards passing since back in week 6. The Cardinals give up the 6th most points per game to signal callers at nearly 21 per game, and I still do not feel great about him here. Daniel Jones is my next dude. He's at 19. He saw his hot streak come to an end right before the New York bye, and I think he stays cool for the most part here against the Texans because this entire game is going to be the Saquon Barkley show. Why let Daniel Jones throw the ball if you do not have to? Exactly. To 20, and rounding it out, it is Russell Wilson. The Titans do allow the 4th most points per game to the position, but they certainly did not look like it for most of the game in Arrowhead. Wilson has finished outside the top 20 in 2 out of his last 3, so even this dropped ranking seems generous. He does have more upside than pretty much anyone in this range, but if you are an owner and have tried to play him this year, you know the risks. At 21, it is Taylor Heinicke, aka Mr. Bud Lightike. He struggled mightily last week, but he did get bailed out by a rogue ref who went and tackled a Vikings safety and gave him a touchdown, so that did work, and it gave him a decent day. But in reality, his stat line should have read something like 100 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 picks. Now that is not encouraging stuff when you're going into a showdown with that elite Eagles secondary. At 22, I have Derek Carr against Indy. He's just trying to pick up the pieces of a lost season at this point, but at least he has something common with his opponent in the Colts. Indy allows just 1.1 passing touchdowns per game, 192 passing yards per as well. Those are both top 8 numbers in the league, so once again, it is likely a tough outing for Carr. Way down on my list, barely making it into quarterback 2 land, tumbling down is none other than Aaron Rodgers. His new low was last week when he lost to the Detroit Lions, and not only that, but he looked absolutely terrible in doing it. Now he gets a Cowboys defense that surrenders just 12 points per game to the position, so there is zero reason to think he is turning it around anytime soon. The last quarterback 2 that I have in week 10 is Kenny Pickett. He is likely to have his hands full against the Saints, and he's just about as desperate as it gets, unless you're starting my last quarterback at 25, and that is PJ Walker against Atlanta. Now, if you have to start PJ Walker, who might not even get the start for Carolina, I'm not sure if they're going to Baker Mayfield or what their plan is exactly, but if you are in this spot, you might be better off just taking a goose because at least that is easier on the blood pressure. Before we get into kickers, if you guys are enjoying the content, crush that like button for me. That helps me out a bunch. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Getting close to the goal. Help me push it over. Also, if you are new to the channel, Relentless Press drops content Monday to Saturday. I'm doing over 10 videos a week, every single week. I also respond to any questions or comments that you have, get back to everybody. So drop one of those down below. I would love to be able to help you out. Now let's get into these kickers. My number 1 kicker of the week is Tyler Bass. Obviously, this is as long as Josh Allen is good to go. Bass will remain a top option. The Vikings are vulnerable in the passing game, and you may have heard it, may have not. The Bills like to sling the ball around just a little bit. At number 2, I have Jason Myers. He gets Tampa Bay. And at 3, same game, other side, Ryan Succop. To number 4, it is Harrison Butker against Jacksonville. He certainly got off to a poor start in his return from injury, but anytime you are kicking behind that Kansas City offense, you're always going to have opportunities. The Jags are certainly not going to change that. Brett Maher rounds out my top 5, and at 6, I have Daniel Carlson against Indianapolis. Wil Lutz is in at 7. He travels to Pittsburgh. And at 8, I have Jake Elliott against Washington. Now, you certainly get the highs and the lows with Elliott. He's had more of the latter recently, unfortunately. The Commanders were really tough on Minnesota, and I am betting that they clamped down a few times with Chase Young probably coming back from injury. We know Philly is going to move the ball. Hopefully they get held to some threes if you are an owner. To number 9, it is Gano against Houston, and rounding out my top 10 is Younghoe Koo against Carolina. We know that Atlanta runs the ball better than most teams, and the Panthers just surrendered 4 rushing scores to Joe Mixon. Carolina also allows the 6th most points per game to the position, so Koo should produce for owners. At 11, it is Matt Gay against Arizona, and I have Jason Sanders behind that high-powered Miami offense against Cleveland at 12. To 13, it is Greg the Leg, Mr. Joseph, against the Buffalo Bills, and at 14, I have Robbie Gould against the Chargers. Now, San Francisco's offense, I firmly believe, is about to take off. If they didn't already, the Chargers are all sorts of banged up on defense, and LA gives up nearly 10 points a game to kickers, so all of that seems like it adds up to me. The last kicker I have is Cairo Santos. He gets Detroit. Yes, kickers do count as playmakers in fantasy football, and you play these guys against the Lions. And that is everything for the video today. Really hope you guys enjoyed the content. Let me know what you thought about my rankings. Drop a like on the video. Make sure you comment on it as well. I love the engagement. It is one of the main reasons that I do this. If you haven't done it yet, what are we doing here? Subscribe to the channel as well. That helps me out so very much. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abraham Opeth, and I will see you next time.